Welcome to session 2 of Podcast University, and this session is going to be all about equipment. So if you have just started your podcasting journey, hopefully you've already watched session 1. If not, go over and watch session 1 right now. That will really help set you up for success, and because you're going to need to know and think through some of the things that we talked about in there before we can really get into equipment. But let's say you've already gone through that and you've already got an idea of what you want to do for your show, your theme, your topic, your format, all that stuff. Now you've moved on to, okay, let's talk equipment. What on earth do I need? What do I not need? We're going to talk about all that today, and I'm going to cover both audio and video podcasts. So if we get into some of the video stuff and, maybe that's not your jam right now, that's okay. I'm going to encourage you to still watch, because obviously you pay for the video, so still watch it because it's included in your price anyway. And it'll be a great reference for you as you move forward, because we started off as an audio-only podcast, and then we decided that we wanted to go to video. So you may find yourself in that same boat. But let's talk equipment, and there are all kinds of things we're going to get into today. But I think the most important thing we're going to get into today to start with is a couple key points before we actually get into the stuff. First of all, if you are just starting your podcasting journey, it doesn't have to break the bank, all right? You don't have to spend a fortune on podcasting equipment. I think that's one of the fallacies out there, that people think that they're going to have to spend a bunch of money. But you really don't have to spend a bunch of money if you're savvy and you're smart and you know what to use that you already have access to, maybe things you haven't thought about. We're going to cover some of that today. But there's also going to be times where if you want to continue on your podcasting journey, you can't do this on the cheap the whole time. You're going to have to invest in your podcast. You're going to have to invest in yourself in order to maybe grow your show and get better. So just keep that in mind. So if you think you're going to run this free and make $1 billion, you're going to be sadly disappointed, because that's not how life works. And the same thing applies to podcasting. But like I talked about, there are already some good free tools that you already probably have access to. You're going to need a PC. You're going to need a Mac, some kind of computer, right? And if you have a Mac, you've already got some great tools built in, completely baked in for free, like GarageBand, iMovie. These are tools that will really help get you going, that you don't have to invest in because you've already invested in the Mac. And it's a great place to start. Now, if you're on a PC, we've got some things. Don't worry, we're gonna cover that. What you can do to actually get some tools that are low priced or free as well. The other thing that this one's going to save you a ton of money is, people don't think about this, but use your cell phone. So if you want to do a video podcast, you have one of the best cameras, I guarantee you, right in your hand, right here, to save yourself a ton of money. Because if you want to get a 4K camera, it's going to be several $100s, and it goes even higher than that, as you can imagine, in cameras. But you have a 4K camera more than likely if you've got a modern phone right here. And guys, I'm going to tell you what, the likelihood that you're going to do 4K video podcasting is pretty low. You're probably going to be doing 1080p podcasting, and your phone, I don't care how old it is, will rock out some 1080p. I can guarantee you right now. And they have pretty daggone good microphones on them, so you can get away with doing some of that too. So a couple things to keep in mind that you can actually, use for free and not break the bank right now. The other thing too is you're going to maybe need some monitoring software, some monitoring headphones. And we're going to get into monitoring more a little bit. What is that? And then a mic. Maybe if you don't want to use the microphone on your cell phone, you can get a cheaper mic. And a lot of times your earbuds, wired earbuds, will have that mic built in. You probably already have some of those laying around. Now, if you going to step up your game, right? If you're going to do video, or you're going to kind of step up your presentation for your podcast, and you want to kind of polish it up a little bit, it's going to get more expensive. That's the nature of the beast. That's like this with anything in the world. As you step up, things do get more expensive. But every single thing we're going to talk about in this episode, all of the products and some of the services that I'm going to talk to you about, we actually have either used in the past or currently use in the Tinfoil Hat Club podcast. The mic that I'm speaking to you right now on, I'm going to recommend to you today. It's an entry-level mic. You can tell that it sounds fantastic. We have no plans to change that. All of the equipment we're going to talk about today, we either used or have used in the past, with a few exceptions. But we're going to be recommending that. And we're going to actually have sent you, if you signed up for this particular class, we're actually going to have sent you already a PDF in your email that will have clickable links. So all you need to do is literally click on the links in there, takes you right to Amazon, and you can order the products right through those links. Those are affiliate links for us. So if you purchase them using that PDF through our affiliate link, the show actually is going to get a little bit of a kickback for that, and we would really appreciate it. Hey, I'm recommending these products. We use them already, so I'm not telling you to use something that we're not offering. It's not junk, it's good stuff. So do help us out if you would do that. That would be fantastic. And you're going to see that continue through the rest of these sessions if you take more. All right, so let's start with some really important stuff. There's not one single piece of equipment that you can really probably invest in other than a computer, because you're going to need something to get you started. But you can even kind of get away with doing a podcast on a cell phone if you really wanted to, editing as well. Nothing will be more important than the microphone that you invest in, okay? And there are a couple different options as far as microphones, and this is going to vary wildly what you're going to need or maybe think about using depending on what you're going to do for your show. Now, the first thing that I want to talk about, and this is really important, okay? You've got 3 pictures of microphones on your screen right now, okay? This big silver guy right here, this is a Blue Yeti. I have one sitting literally right back here off camera. I'm just going to tell you, we do not use it for our show. It has its uses, but it is not, and I repeat, not a good microphone for podcasting. And the reason for that is it's actually a condenser microphone. And I'm going to explain a little bit more on that here in a second. What I am talking to you on right now, and what I'm going to highly recommend that you pick up if you decide you want to invest in some equipment and invest in a microphone, is this guy right here next door. This is a Samson Q2U, all right? It is considered an entry-level budget microphone, and I'm going to tell you right now, you will not find a better microphone and better bang for your buck. It does not exist in the microphone world. If somebody wants to come out with a better one, I will be shocked because I don't know how they're going to do it. We have, and I'll tell you this right now, there are microphones out there, the Shure SM7B, I think is one of them. There's a couple others that are out there that are really, really high end that you see everybody talking on. Those are like $300-$400 microphones. I have zero plans at this particular point, zero, of upgrading our microphones away from the Shure or away from the Samson Q2U to anything else. I just don't see the value in it. And what you get is really crazy for your money. Now, this is a dynamic microphone, okay? And so to understand the difference between a dynamic microphone and a condenser microphone, they're huge. Condenser microphones like the Blue Yeti are super sensitive, okay? So if you want to hear all kinds of vibration, if you want to hear the air when it kicks on in your house, you want to hear a mouse fart all the way in your basement from your 3rd story, you want to use a Blue Yeti. Okay, so when you go on YouTube and you see those people that are doing the ASMR videos, all of them, I bet you anything, are using some kind of microphone like a Blue Yeti. Okay, that's what it's for. It has its uses. We could get into polar patterns and how the sound works. I'm not going to do all that. Long story short, they are too sensitive to use for spoken word podcasts. Can you get away with it? Yes. Are you going to have to do a whole bunch of stuff to make it sound good? Yeah, you're going to have to do some work. If you've ever seen pictures of people who are doing podcasts in their closet, I guarantee you if the microphone is in the picture and you zoom in, it's because they're using some kind of Blue Yeti or some kind of condenser microphone that is the wrong tool for the job. You need to get a good dynamic microphone like the Samson Q2U. So the way that a dynamic microphone works is it only picks up what's in front of it, and it's not super sensitive. Like I'm sitting about a fist distance away, which is about normal, from the microphone. A little bit of a recording tip for you. I'm also sitting off-center to the mic, so I'm not talking directly into the microphone, so it's not getting the harsh P's and S's that are coming out of my mouth, okay? But if I move over here, you can tell how maybe the microphone drops in sensitivity, and so on and so forth, and I can move around. That's good. You want that because you don't want to be able to pick a bunch of extra noise. If you have someone in the studio with you, you don't want to pick them up on your microphone as well. So it's huge. Get a dynamic microphone and not a condenser microphone. And you can see here, there's a big difference in price. The Blue Yeti used to be more expensive. Now it's down to about $100. The reason for that is Blue doesn't actually make them anymore. They're actually owned by Logitech, and they have cheaped them up a lot as far as the build quality. The audio quality is still good. Still sounds what it is, but it's a lot cheaper made. The one that I have back there was back when Blue made it, and I could throw that through a brick wall and probably put a hole in it. It is a sturdy mic. But yeah, you can see the Samson Q2U, and these are all prices. All the prices that you're going to see in this video are just the top of the line. So if you go on Amazon, you're probably going to find them on sale for much less, or some kind of coupon or whatever that you can get. So just take this as the worst case scenario, and you can get them for cheaper than that on Amazon when you typically go on. I just picked the highest normal price. Samson Q2U is $70. Okay. Now here's what you get in the Q2U. You get not only the microphone, but you get the pop filter that you have here. Okay. We're going to talk more about that. You get XLR cable, a USB cable, and you actually get the microphone stand that you see there as well. So you get a ton of stuff for not a lot of money, and it sounds really good, and it makes me sound better than I should. And then another option for you, if you're planning on just doing an audio podcast to start off and you want to use your cell phone to record everything, I would highly recommend that maybe upgrade to a lav mic. And that's the dude down there at the bottom of your screen right down here. I have one of these. I keep it on the ready, and I do use it for some of my recordings. I could have used it today. You guys would be none the wiser. I could have plugged it right into my Mac and sounded pretty much almost as good as I do right now. Granted, the Samson Q2U sounds better because the lav mic kind of sits down here and it's out of the way, but it sounds pretty doggone good, and it's really not that expensive. You can get these with all kinds of different connections. So if you have an iPhone, you can get it with a Lightning connection. If you have like me and like the new Macs, I'll take USB-C. That's kind of what they've gone to, or your Android phone. You can get them with USB-C as well. So there's a lot of different options out there. I think the one that I picked up was, I don't even know if it was $60 at the time, but I got one for $60. My brand that I actually have is Sennheiser. Sennheiser's been around for a long, long time. They make really good headphones, really good microphones. You can't really go wrong. So there you go, lav mic. All right, so like I said, get a good dynamic mic. I would highly, highly, highly recommend this Q2U right here. You guys are getting an audio version or an audio sample of what it sounds like this entire presentation, okay? And I'm going to use it to record every single one of these sessions more than likely, so you're going to get a nice flavor and taste of how good it sounds. And like I said, it comes with both XLR, which is what's plugged in right now. You may not be able to see that. It might be slightly off camera, but this is a traditional XLR like microphone cable. It has 3 prongs on the end of it. And then it also comes with USB cables, so you can plug it directly into your computer. If you do not have some kind of XLR, you're going to need some kind of interface before you go into your computer. So it will plug directly into the computer, and your computer will pick it up. No sweat, no problem, no questions asked. It comes with that little desk stand that you see there, which is nice. You can just set it right here in front of you, and you can talk. Also comes with a nice pop filter to help cut down on the plosives and sibilances, the S's and the P's, that can make your recording sound really harsh. And then on the bottom of this, it actually has a mic jack. Okay, so I can plug, a headphone jack. I said mic jack, I should say headphone jack. A headphone jack into this, right, and run headphones up to my ears for onboard monitoring. So I can hear what I'm saying in my ears, and I can really kind of monitor my sound and how I sound there. There's also volume switches on here, so I can turn that volume on board for the headphones up or down, and then obviously an on-off switch, an indicator light to let you know it's on, and all that fun stuff. So Samson Q2U, check it out. All right, so let's move on to headphones. So you got a couple different options here. Actually, you got a billion different options here. You got a billion different options for a lot of these. So I'm going to walk you through some of the different options today. I'm going to give you my recommendations, what we use on the show, okay? And then you can kind of dig into this and find out for yourself. If you want to learn all about headphones, I have a friend, Skeeb23. His name's Ryan. Super, super good dude. Go onto YouTube, check him out, Skeeb, Skeeb 23. He does all kinds of reviews on headphones. So if you're a headphonophile or whatever they would be, a phonophile, I don't know, whatever, he would know. You can go on there and check him out, and you can get yourself some crazy good deals and high-end headphones and all kinds of stuff. He's done pretty much everything. So headphones are important. Now, what they do is they allow you to cut down on bleed back from the audio, okay? So a good example of this, I'm interviewing a guest, and the guest, we're both in the room, and I don't want to have all of the audio. I want to know what exactly the feed is going to sound like when I'm done recording. I want to have the in-ear monitoring. It also helps them hear what I'm saying clearly and what they're saying, and it just helps the interaction much better. You can tell how loud things are when they're going into the microphone, and you can adjust on the fly accordingly. It just helps you make a better recording. The other thing that it does, if I'm interviewing someone remotely, okay, they're not here in the studio with me, but they're remote, you're really going to want that person to have earbuds, because otherwise you're going to rely on software to try to cut down on the sound that is going to come from the computer, okay, when they're not talking. So the sound's going to come out of the computer, and then the microphone is also going to pick up that sound that's on their computer. And if the software doesn't do a good job, and not all software is perfect, believe me, no matter what you find, it ain't perfect. Sometimes you'll get a lot of bleed back audio, and it's going to be a headache to try to get rid of that and clean up your audio feed from your recording. So you're going to really want to encourage them to have at least a pair of earbuds. Most everybody's got some kind of pair of headphones these days, and they probably came with their phone, or had a phone in the past that came with them, or they've invested in earpods, or who knows what. But at least some headphones to cut down on that audio is great. Now, again, if you don't have guests, then you don't have to worry about monitoring. I'm not wearing any monitoring right now because this is a one-way feed, right? I don't have to worry about any kind of audio coming back at me. I'm feeding in all the audio, but I don't need anything back right now because this is a one-way thing. So if you're just doing a solo podcast, you don't need that. Unless you're going to play stuff from the computer, then it gets a little bit more tricky. I would encourage you to do some in-ears or headphones at that point. A good pair of corded earbuds will do fine, okay? Again, you don't have to break the bank. If it has a microphone on it, that's great. You can probably get away with using that. A lot of times, the low ends don't have the greatest mic on them, all right? Now, there's some things, if you start using software, you can help enhance that and clean it up, but I would probably encourage you, one of the first investments you're going to want to make, that dude right there, okay? Or a good lav mic. Earpods are okay as well. A lot of times, the microphone on those aren't great either. But again, get you a Q2U. And then when you really want to step up your game from a comfort perspective, not only while you're recording, but then also during editing, okay? Because you're going to be sitting and you're going to probably be editing your podcast for a while. And if you decide you want to do a video podcast, you're going to spend some time editing. I can guarantee you, even with some of the software options we have, you still got to do some editing. You're going to want something that's comfortable. You're going to want a nice, good, comfortable pair of over the ear, okay, over ear. You don't really want them on ear. You don't want that sound to bleed out. So I would encourage you to get over the ear headphones. And these headphones are right here are what we actually use on the show, and I'm going to provide that. We also have a 90-minute show. So we're sitting around. Typically, Ben is over here to my left. We're in studio, and then we have remote guests, and we're talking for 90 minutes and sometimes longer. So you don't want to be uncomfortable during that time. You want a nice pair of headphones so you can be comfortable. What we use and what you actually see on the screen right there, and I have them sitting right here, okay, so that you know that I'm not a liar, are the Audio-Technica ATH M20X. Okay, that's these right here. And worst case scenario, you can get them for about $50 a piece. So I have some really nice Sennheisers that I invested in upstairs a while ago too. So if we have an extra person that pops in the studio, sometimes I cheat and I go grab those just because I want to be extra comfy. So, but yeah, $50, worth it. All right, let's move on to digital audio workstations. You might hear these referred to as DAWs, okay? So ultimately, what is a digital audio workstation? Well, this is what you're going to plug all of your files into to help you, or even record directly into, really, to help you record and then edit your show and increase your production quality, okay? And again, if you've already got a Mac, then you've already got some options built in, right? So you've got GarageBand, you got iMovie that if you wanted to do video, you could do that. But then Audacity is also out there. It's completely free on PC and Mac. You can kind of see that here on your screen at the very top. It's bare bones as far as the way it looks, but it does have some features in it that will do just fine for you from an audio editing perspective, all right? And you can watch some videos. I'm not going to get into that. It's about equipment, right? You can watch some videos out there on YouTube on how to use Audacity to go ahead and get you going. If you are on a Mac, you can see GarageBand right here. If you have not played in GarageBand, again, there are tons of videos out there that you can go into that will teach you how to use GarageBand. It is not hard. It's pretty basic, and there are not really a ton of things that you're going to need to do for a podcast. You're not doing some heavy musical editing. You're not layering 55 million tracks together, maybe some intro music, maybe some sound effects, maybe some outro music. You can do all of that relatively simply in GarageBand. It's actually an incredibly powerful tool that Apple gives you for free. So take advantage of it. All right, now let's talk about some paid options because those are free options. Now, if you're on a PC, obviously you ain't getting GarageBand. You have to go with Audacity or something else. So on the paid options, you've got really two main competing platforms. There's kind of a third one in there. I'm not sure if Zencastr really offers the ability to edit in their software. I don't recall off the top of my head. We might be able to throw them in the mix, but they're all relatively similar in price. You might have seen Riverside. They're doing a ton of commercials right now, and that ranges from about $15 to $24 a month. All right. And then you can use Descript. We actually use Descript on the show. Matter of fact, everything you're watching right now, I am recording in Descript. Okay. And it was super simple for me to literally go in and record not only my screen that I'm sharing with you, but then also the camera that I'm talking into, and then my audio running through a soundboard, which you're going to see in just a second. We're going to cover that stuff too. And it's all being done in the cloud right now. I'm recording everything online. I'm not recording anything locally on my computer. I'm doing it all in the cloud. I'm going to edit it all in the cloud, and then I'm going to literally manipulate everything up in the web, which is fantastic. And we're going to get into that a little bit more here in a second too. Descript also has another kicker that comes with it, as does Riverside. They enable you to do remote recordings. Okay, so if I want to have a guest on the show, which we have guests on the show fairly frequently on the Tinfoil Hat Club, we actually run with what's called a hybrid setup. So Ben is in studio with me, and then we have a guest or guests. We actually had two the other day that will be joining us remotely. Okay. We are going to use a program called Squadcast, which Descript actually owns. It's built into their platform. It doesn't cost any extra to do that. And it records all the files separately. And then the minute we're done with the recording and it's done uploading everything, I can send it right over to Descript and start editing my files and start editing our show. It's a phenomenal tool, and we've just scratched the surface on what it all will do. I'm going to give you a more thorough run in Descript here in a second because, again, I highly recommend it. We use it on the show. Yes, we're going to get a kickback if you start using it too. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to shade that for 2 seconds, but I would not sell you anything that we are not currently using. And honestly, we wouldn't be a video podcast right now if it wasn't for Descript, because it is a whole nother monster when you start going down that road. So yeah, a couple of the benefits. Let's just talk about this really quick. And you get this with Riverside too, but I am a fan of Descript because I just feel like it's a better platform. One of the things you run into, whether it's audio podcast or definitely with a video podcast, because the file sizes get much larger, but they're still large when you do audio, especially if you have a long show like ours and you have multiple people that are talking. It gets pretty labor intensive they're pretty large as far as the file sizes. If you're doing everything locally on your computer, then you're going to have to upload everything. Okay. And every time you want to do that, you're going to be uploading and downloading and uploading and downloading and uploading and downloading. And then you're going to have to, maybe download to move over to a different site. And there's a lot of upload download game. And you may be thinking, well, I have a fast internet connection. Okay, that's great. But typically the fast internet is typically down. Up is a fraction of that, like typically 10% of that. So unless you have some kind of really strange internet connection, you're not going to probably have that fast of an upload speed. And it can be really labor intensive and cumbersome to have to sit there and wait for everything to get uploaded. The beauty of this is you literally do everything in the cloud for the most part. Okay. So I just told you, when I'm done with this, I'm literally going to hit stop, and it's going to be transcribe everything. Okay. It's going to take all of my spoken word and literally build a transcript. And you can see this on your screen right here, down here in the bottom. This is what Descript looks like. It's literally going to build a transcript. And then I can literally edit my video or audio, because this is just as good for audio, okay, via the transcript. So if I have a section in there that I want to move around, I can literally highlight it and cut and then go where I want to go and paste or delete or whatever, just like a Word doc. It is an incredibly powerful tool. If you are more used to a timeline editor, kind of like Audacity or a GarageBand or something like that, or iMovie or, Final Cut Pro or whatever you're using, there's a timeline editor in there too, which actually has the words in there, which makes it really good to be able to go and find where you can cut things and move things on a finite level. There are a ton of other tools in there as well. some of which we're going to touch upon probably here in this session, and some we're going to touch upon later. But everything is saved up in the cloud, which means you're going to save all that file space. You can download everything if you want, but everything is literally saved up in the cloud, and there's really no size limitations on how much space that you can use. It's really kind of incredible. But the other thing too is you can instantly send audio, video, or whatever over to your podcast provider. So for instance, when I'm done editing and I have already processed everything and I'm ready to send it over to YouTube, or we use Podbean for our podcast provider. You might have heard of Buzzsprout. We used to use Buzzsprout. You can actually send it directly to any of those from Descript. So I can literally go into a menu. Actually, you might be able to see it right here, this little white publish button. When I hit that, it's going to bring up a menu and it's going to say, okay, where do you want to send this to? And I can literally ship it directly over via the cloud to any of those platforms. It's incredible, because normally you'd have to edit everything and download it and then re-upload it to your platform. Now this removes all of that. So it's an incredibly powerful tool. All right, let's move on to audio interfaces. So let's talk these really quick. So there's a couple different options for you on the screen. There's a Focusrite, and then there's what we use on the show, which is a Rode Procaster 2. This was one of my larger purchases for the show. It was worth the investment. We use it all the time. I'm using it right now. Audio interface allows you to control all of your audio input and headphone volumes. Okay, so again, if you're running a solo show, you're not going to need any of this. You can really just plug this dude right into your computer, or you can have a much more simplified version of an audio interface. But more than likely, you can get away with just using this because there's USB as well as XLR, and you can literally plug it into your computer and you can do everything that way and record directly in your computer. However, when you start getting multiple people and then you start running like we do, where we have a hybrid show where it's Ben and I in studio and then we have remote guests like I talked about, you're going to want an audio interface because it's going to make your life so much easier. And there's a lot of other cool things you can do if you really spring for the high end, which is what we did. It was fun. But you can control your volume for your headphones individually. It gets much more difficult when you're on the computer and you're trying to do that and everybody's plugged into stuff. The other thing too is like trying to get everybody mixed together so that they can hear everybody's individual volume. That gets incredibly hard to do via a computer because you just don't have that many ins and outs on the computer, unlike what you have for an audio interface. So for instance, on the Rodecaster Pro 2 right here that I'm talking to you on and I'm using right now, there are actually 4 microphone inputs on the back of this dude, which are the first 4 channels, little sliders that you can see right here. All right. And then on the right next to those, there are 4 headphone out jacks. So Ben has his own input for his microphone, and he has his own output for his headphones. And then I have my own mic and headphones, and I have 2 more people that I could put in here live in studio, same setup. I can then go into each individual channel and I can dial in how much they hear of each other in their own ears and what all is going to be in the mix for their individual channels. And then the other thing too is I have the computer plugged in, or this actually plugged into the computer, and I can control what I'm hearing from the computer, both out and in. And then I have Bluetooth options on here too. So I can literally Bluetooth my phone and make phone calls, or have somebody call into my phone and have it connected to the board and literally have a phone call with somebody and have it go through the board, and I can control the sound and all of that. So it's a pretty phenomenal tool. Plus, you get super fun things that you can do with it because of all the little pads right there. You can actually program those pads. It can become an incredibly powerful tool for you to do sound effects, for you to do intro music, for you to actually program. If you have multiple camera shots, you can actually do camera changes and all kinds of stuff. So it gets pretty incredible. But just to let you know, I would highly recommend the Rodecaster Pro 2. So there you go. Your other option on there is a lesser, a little bit smaller dude. It's called a Focusrite Scarlett, and they really make these in all kinds of different variants. I think this one right here is a 2i2. They make a 4i4, I think an 8i8, a 16, and I forget how big they go, but it just depends on how many different inputs, like the Procaster 2, that you want to have. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles. It doesn't have all the goodies, but you guys kind of get the gist. Now, if you're planning on doing a solo show, like I said, you're not necessarily going to need this, but I just kind of covered why this is so good for remote sessions or tons of people in the studio, or like we have that hybrid setup. And then we talked about the sound integration. You can program different sound effects in there. Literally any audio file that you have, you can program this dude. There's literally an app that you can get on your phone to help you make it even easier to literally program all these different pads, and you can have multiple pages on the pads, and it's really cool. And then, like I said, you can program scene switching, and we're going to get into a little bit about that here in a little bit as far as OBS. All right, so your Focusrite Scarlett right there that you see, the red dude, is going to run you about $200, all right? And if you decide you want to go for the Procaster 2, it is a hefty price tag. It is about $700, but I guarantee you it will probably be the last audio interface that you're ever going to need. You can actually stick a card in the back of it and record your show directly to the road. So if you want to go on the road and actually record, you can take this guy with you and literally record right there. All right, so let's talk cameras. So again, you have a ton of different options available to you, just like anything else. So if you were planning on doing an audio podcast, okay, maybe this doesn't apply to you. But if you're ever thinking about doing a video podcast, then you might want to listen and pay attention, because if you have an inkling that you might do it later, this is some good information to have. And something I'm going to tell you. First of all, this is a very, very fast-growing market. If you listen to session 1, I got into this a little bit because it's important to kind of think about before you ever hit record on that first session of where you really want your podcast to go, all right? Because that's going to determine a lot of things on how you need to start off. I would say that probably within the next few years, video podcasts, in my opinion, are going to become more popular than audio podcasts. It is growing extremely fast, and it is actually growing faster than the audio podcast market. And I would say if it's a 100-story building and you decide you want to do a video podcast, you're kind of not getting in on the ground floor, but you're probably getting in on ground 3 or 4 at this point. All right. So you're kind of getting in early because there are a lot of providers that are not necessarily video yet, but it's coming. Like Amazon's a great one. They're a huge provider. They actually do not offer video podcasts yet. It's coming. And I don't want you to think that if you do a video podcast that anybody who just listens to audio is not going to be able to listen to your show, because that's not true. If you do audio, you're going to get the benefit, or video, if you're going to get the benefit of both video and audio. If you do video or audio, you're just going to be audio. But if you do video, you're going to get both. You're going to be out there on everything. So you can actually feed your show. It's called a mixed RSS feed, something I'll get into in later sessions. But it will feed both audio and video. So huge growing market. So just think about it. The biggest thing is the minute you go to a video podcast, it is a whole nother animal, right? So a lot of the things that we're going to cover from here on out, lighting, cameras, even now that we've gotten into some of the soundboard, you're gonna probably have video stuff, which means you're probably gonna have multiple people, and you're gonna have other things. You're just gonna have to invest more money, more time, more money, larger file sizes, more editing. And there's a lot of things that make your life easy. Descript will make your life a lot easier. Believe me, good equipment will make your life a lot easier. But it is more expensive and it is more time consuming. So just know that's what you're getting into. With that, you're going to need to beef your computer, because like when we run our podcast, there are 2 1080p cameras getting fed into the Mac. All right. And I'm not a lighting and video wizard. I'm just not. That's not my forte. So I can give you more than enough information to get you ahead, but there are people who are wiser than I. But the minute you start ramming a bunch of 1080p and 2K and 4K video into your laptop, you're going to need a pretty beefy laptop. So whereas with a podcast, you're only pushing audio, computers can handle that pretty easy. So just something to consider. Now, again, when it comes to cameras, prices can vary wildly, but I will tell you this. While 4K and 2K cameras, if you want to kind of invest into the future, go ahead and buy those now. However, I'm going to tell you that the likelihood that you're going to be doing a 4K or a 2K video podcast is pretty much nil, because a lot of the providers just have not adjusted to that yet. The minute you go from a 1080p podcast up to a 2K podcast, the file sizes go up big time. And when you go to a 4K, they go up even more. And a lot of the providers just are not really able yet or willing to yet take on file sizes that large. So you're probably going to be rocking 1080p if you want to do a video podcast. Now, that's good because it means that the file sizes will be smaller, the editing time will be less as far as the encoding time and the processing time, the amount of time it's going to take in the cloud to ship something over to your podcast provider. And then if you have to get stuck in the download upload game, you're going to be glad that you're 1080p and that you're not 2K or 4K. So there are advantages, but I would say in the future, we're going to wind up at least 2K, if not 4K. And you can get cameras right now for obviously both, any of those. So a few options. So we talked about it earlier, your phone. So if you got a Mac, like I don't have a Mac. Okay. This is actually a Google Pixel. I have a little photo of a Google Pixel on the screen there because I wanted to be able to provide you Android and I wanted to be able to provide you an iPhone. If I had an iPhone, it would be super simple to literally beam that right over to my Mac and use that. But I'm going to tell you right now, your phone is one of the best cameras, like I talked about earlier, that you can get. Okay. You can do 60 frames per second, 1080p all day on these cameras, on these phones, and they look really dang good. So in Android, the reason I say maybe for free is if you have a Samsung, good luck, because sometimes unless you buy their higher end, they do not allow you to hook your phone up via cable to your computer to use it as a webcam. The latest versions of Android have provided every single provider out there the ability to actually use the camera, either forward or back, rear-facing or forward-facing camera on their phone as a webcam. It is pre-baked into Android, okay? However, some of the providers, Samsung, have blocked that. For instance, I can use my Google Pixel because it's a Google, right? Google's not going to block their own software. But Ben, who uses a Samsung, can't. So we kind of had to go a different route as far as cameras, which is actually what I'm talking to you on right now. You're actually seeing the Samsung Brio, or excuse me, I apologize, Logitech. I apologize, Logitech, for calling you a Samsung. If you can tell, I don't like Samsung. Logitech Brio 300, okay? And you can get these high price, $60. You can a lot of times get them on sale. They're 1080p cameras. They're a basic webcam. They have a little shutter on them where I can close the screen off or the lens off if I want to. They're small, they're compact, they have a little bitty light on them that's good for nothing other than to let you know that it's on. And a microphone even built in. If you really wanted to rough it and use that mic, you could, all for $60. And they literally run via USB-C right to my Mac, and we have two of them plugged in when we do the show. So there you go, cheap option. If you want to step up your game, I would recommend going to a Brio. It's also a Logitech, clearly just a higher version of it. It's actually capable of doing 4K video, but it will do a much better job of doing the 1080p. Okay, it'll be clearer, it'll be crisper. You'll have more options when it comes to dialing in the picture quality, and frame rate will probably be higher. And of course, with that, you're stepping up in price to $200. If you really want to start going higher end, you can actually start getting actual cameras. Okay, so this is actually the Panasonic Lumix G7 here. This was the Brio 4K. This was the Brio 300, and obviously you know what a cell phone looks like. But this is the Lumix G7 right here. These run you about $700. So if you want to go to a high end to make it really pretty, you can do this for your podcast. We are not there yet. So maybe someday. All right, let's talk lighting. And I am by no means a lighting professional, okay, as far as not so much equipment, but as far as lighting, as far as the scene. That's not my jam. I'll get there someday, but I'm not there yet. But good lighting can set the mood for your show. Now, I'll give you a little pointer, a little tip. This is actually going to come up here in a few slides because it's all the bonus equipment, okay? And the bonus equipment is going to be good for talking to you about some things that you can do to get away from having this fancy pants lighting setup, and it's a green screen. You're actually seeing me use a green screen right now. Behind me is a great big huge green screen that I'm going to show you here in a little bit. But when you watch this final version, I'm going to have used that green screen to create a transparency. And I'm going to be just kind of floating right there on your screen and talking to you with the stuff floating around me, right? I did that via green screen. So when you do that, you can get around some of the challenges that you have with lighting. But good lighting can really be pretty daggone cool and set the mood for your show. And you guys probably have seen some good videos of that out there on YouTube. People that have shows that have really good lighting, I envy them because it looks nice. I will tell you this, though. On the low end, a good ring light, okay, will do you wonders. If you've ever kind of zoomed in on the pupils sometimes of some of the people, you'll actually see the ring light. And the nice thing is a ring light, you get a lot of different stuff with that. So I'm going to recommend the ring light that's on the screen there to you, or I think that's a different version. I have a little different version over here sitting just off the screen over here to the right. It's the one I'm going to put up on the screen here in a second as far as my recommendation. But it's actually a ring light. It has multiple different settings as far as light intensity, but it also has multiple different settings as far as light color. All right, so if you don't want a really stark white light, you can warm it up and get more of that soft white, warm color, so you can kind of dial it in based on how you want things to look. And again, you can change the intensity from blinding to very soft. It comes on a nice tripod, all right, and it comes with a cell phone holder, so you can take your cell phone and you can literally clip it in right behind the ring light, so you got the ring light and the cell phone camera all pointed at you, and you will look pretty dang good. The nice thing is it comes with like a universal mount screw. So if you wanted to mount your nice Panasonic Lumix G7 camera, you could probably do that. I could actually probably mount this Brio right here on there with the right screws. So pretty cool. If you kind of move over to these, you've kind of seen these before. These are actually called soft studio lights. If you want to kind of up your game and you want to kind of get more of a bigger feel, bigger light frame to kind of push light around, you're going to go to these. And really, there's not a ton of difference in price between the two. So I would recommend what I have sitting off camera right over here, which is the Sensign 10-inch ring light. It's really going to do everything you're going to need it to do. And it has all the stuff we talked about earlier. $32 on the high end. If you go up to the Torgem Soft Light box light kit, I think there might have been 2 lights in that one actually. It's $80, so not a ton of difference, and you can kind of control the light, but I'd recommend starting off with a ring light, especially if you're just going to do a solo video. All right, so let's talk some bonus stuff to wrap up the day. All right, so boom arms. So really, this right here that you can see that my mic is coming off of right now, this is a boom arm, and it looks just pretty much like this guy right here. All right, so it's got some springs attached to it and controls the arms. You can run your cable up through here. You can even, it comes with zip ties. You can zip tie the cable down to make it all nice and neat, and it will kind of hold your mic up for you, and you can easily move it around. Now, you might have heard that, which is the next thing on here. Well, we'll get there. It's a shock mount. I don't have this on a shock mount. I'm looking at getting us some shock mounts. I just haven't invested in them. We've just been careful, and I've been editing, honestly, if we made any really bad noises on the mics, but I need to get us some shock mounts because they're not that expensive. But you can get one of these desk stands right now. This is a newer desk boom stand, and it literally just clips via like a little screw arm to your desk. All right, and you can get them for like $18. It's kind of hard to beat, actually. So there you go. You can also go with a desk stand. Now, if you remember that the Q2U actually comes with a little tripod desk stand, but you can get some other ones. Typically, those don't clamp on. You can probably find some that do, but more often than not, they're just weighted. They have a nice weight at the bottom of them. That's kind of what you're seeing on the screen right here. And then they have a little arm that you can kind of telescope and move around, and then you can hook the mic to the end of it. So that's how that would work. And you can get those for about the same price. I would personally recommend the boom arm. It's a little bit more flexible, reaches a little further, and you can do some stuff with it. All right, shock mounts. So a shock mount is actually sitting right here on your screen, all right? And what that would do is the minute I touch the mic, you're going to hear that, right? And it gets kind of annoying, gets kind of noisy, right? Or if I move the arm the least little bit, it kind of picks up all the vibration and all that. Don't really want that in your podcast, right? Now, granted, you shouldn't really be moving your mic a ton, but if you ever watch Joe Rogan, he moves his mic a lot. The reason you don't hear that is because it's pretty much on a good shock mount system. And I think the mics that he uses actually have a shock mount built into them. Those are really high-end mics because he can afford it. And but if you have maybe a Samsung Q2U like this, you're going to want to get a shock mount. Okay, so the microphone actually sits down in this guy, and then it screws into your boom arm right here on this side, so your microphone will sit in there, and it kind of just has a spring, or not a spring, but kind of like a little bit of a vibration dampening system. All right, so when you move it around, it doesn't bang on the mic, and the internal components of the mic don't wiggle a ton, and it kind of dampens all that movement. So you get rid of the nasty sounds that I just shared with you. For the Q2U, you can get a shock mount for about $10. And if you got a different kind of mic, you can find them for about the same price. They're really not expensive. And I literally have 2 in the cart right now. I'm going to order one for Ben and myself. I really should probably order 4, but we only need 2 for now. So I'll save myself the $20. Okay, pop filter. This is called a ball-style foam pop filter. You can get some that are more like windscreen that'll literally come off, and I have a really fancy windscreen thing that screws onto the Yeti mount, and it didn't work very well, honestly, but it looked really pretty. The balls are probably the best, but you put those right on there, and it really helps deaden a lot of that rush of air going into the microphone, so you don't get those heavy S's and P's. All right. And you can get these for $6. All right. And this thing will probably fit on any microphone out there. So, but hey, Samsung Q2U, it came with it. All right. Last screen for the day. All right. So let's talk about a green screen. Kind of alluded to this earlier. These are typically about 5 by 7. So 5 feet by 7 feet. I have this one kind of sitting horizontally right now. And the screen, I'm going to actually crop the screen down so you don't see the rounded corners. But again, this is a Neewer. It comes with a stand, and they run about $90. Okay. One side is green and the other side is blue. So I have the green behind me right now. That's typically what we use. But if I had the blue behind me, obviously you would find a problem today, because if I decided to use the blue screen behind me and then I told the color code, or the chroma key is what they call it, to naturally it's defaulted to green, but you can pick other colors. If I told it blue, I would now be invisible along with my background. So I'm using the green, but if I was to wear a green shirt, then I could tell it, okay, I want you to do blue. So you can kind of flip it around and use either or, which is kind of nice. But yeah, it comes with a stand, and it's like 5 foot by 7 foot. And it actually folds into a circle, believe it or not, and a disc, and it actually comes with a little carrying case so you can take it with you places, which is nice. Okay, so let's talk about some remote recording software, which you actually have down here. So this is actually Squadcast. Sorry, it's a little, actually, no, I'm sorry, that's Riverside. But they're all similar. If you've used Zoom or you've used Meet before, both of which are on the logos are on the screen, this is going to feel very familiar to you. However, these are already included in Descript, and if Riverside has all one thing, but Descript actually bought a company called Squadcast, and now they've integrated that in, so it's no extra charge. You literally get Squadcast and Descript for all one price. So whether you go to Squadcast, whatever price you see there, you get Descript with it. If you go to Descript, whatever price you see there, you get Squadcast with it. So it's 6 in one, half dozen in the other. But the nice thing is you get remote recording software, and you get all the stuff that we talked about earlier. And you get that with Riverside too. Again, we prefer Descript. It's really, really cool, and it has some incredibly powerful tools in it that we haven't even touched upon, that if you go watch the recording video or the editing video, you're going to see some things in there. Actually, go watch the editing video. You're probably going to see the vast majority of them in there. And then you can always use Zoom or Google Meet. Now, here's the difference between Zoom, Meet, and remote recording software, because you may be asking yourself, why would I pay for something that I can get for free? First of all, technically it's built in, so you're not having to pay for it. You're already paying for the other. You might as well get it free anyway. But here's the difference. When you actually use Squadcast, Zencaster, or Riverside, or any of these programs that are built for podcasters, the way it works, unlike Google's Meet and Zoom, is while you're using that software, it's actually recording locally and then uploading to the cloud behind you while you're recording. Which means if you and I are recording remotely, all right, and you start to have signal issues and you start to cut out and drop off and we lose a bunch of audio, that is not going to show up, or video that is not going to show up in the end recording, in the end product, because all of your good recording and all of your is local, right? That's what we're going to have. Zoom and Meet do not do that. So whatever you get when you're recording is what you're stuck with, and that can really stink sometimes. If you're a big Zoom fan, power to you. I hate Zoom with a passion. I prefer to use Google Meet if I ever have to use anything like that, but we typically always use Squadcast when we're doing remote recording sessions. Very few exceptions to that, but Squadcast is pretty much awesome. So if you don't want to pay the money and you want to go through Zoom, the nice thing is you go to Descript and you want to go pay for that. They actually have the ability now to integrate Zoom recordings directly in the cloud into Descript. So you can record in Zoom and then you can punch your files directly over to Zoom or over to Descript, and you can edit everything and it'll sequence everything for you, which means it'll put the audio and the video together and make your life really easy. One more powerful thing that Descript has started to do. Now, here's the downside, because Meet and Zoom are free. The downside is they do have limitations. You can only have 100 people on there, which isn't so bad, but you can only record for 40 minutes on Zoom. You can record for 60 minutes on Meet. Now, if you're like us and you have an hour and a half show, that ain't going to do, because we're literally going to have to figure out a way to stop the session and start the session again, and then I'm going to have to patch all those files together. No spank you. You have none of those limitations when you do Squadcast or Riverside or any of those. All right. Last thing I want to cover today is this, and this is a incredibly powerful piece of software that you can start using pretty much right away, and it's completely free. Completely free. It won't cost you a penny. It's called OBS, Open Broadcast Studio, okay? Or software, I think. Open Broadcast Software, Open Broadcast Studio, whatever. OBS, it's awesome. So this is really good for live streaming. If you've ever live streamed and had to use another piece of software, you needed a streaming key, you needed to actually have software for that. That's what OBS is really good for, but it has other uses as well, okay? It's really good for virtual camera work, and here's what I mean by that. One of the things that none of these providers have figured out just yet is our situation for the Tinfoil Hat Club podcast. We actually have what's called a hybrid setup. I think I mentioned it earlier. So it's a hybrid setup, okay? And that means that Ben and I are in studio, but then we have remote guests. The challenge for that is, unless Ben is on his own laptop, okay, own computer, he'd have to be logged in on his own computer, literally sitting here next to me, and I'd have to be logged in on my own computer. And if you don't have an extra computer, or you don't want to invest in another computer, what do? Well, using OBS, I create what's called a virtual camera. And so you can go into OBS and you can create a camera inside of OBS, right? A camera feed, effectively. All right. And then you can put inside of that camera feed whatever you want. So I have my camera that you're seeing me on right now is half the screen, and Ben's camera is the other half of the screen. So that then feeds out as one camera feed. So when we go and we record remotely, when you actually watch any of our shows, which I'd encourage you to do, please go to tfhc.com and check out some of the shows. When you watch Ben and I, we are actually melded together using that virtual camera. So that's how that was accomplished. And then we have green screens behind us. So I green screen us out and then drop a background in there, and that's what you see. So now you know, little tip and trick for the editing and recording side, free of charge. Okay, so there you go. There you go. It rocks and it's free. Last thing for the day. Well, thank you guys so much. Hopefully you got a lot out of session 2. There's a lot of stuff we covered in there. I know we almost went like 55 minutes, I think, something like that. But really good information. I hope, like I said, you got a lot out of it. And the nice thing is if you've purchased this, then you get it forever. So just come back here and watch it whenever you want if you want to access more of the information. And it'll be here for you. So take care. God bless. And I'll catch you later.